Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I Tell.
All right. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show, and you are in the right place if you want answers. And every time I say that, I think of Jack Nicholson in, what was it, A Few Good Men? I don't remember that. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I just don't remember the name of the movie, but Tom Cruise versus Jack in the courtroom there. But anyway, if you want answers, much like Tom Cruise in that movie, we're going to give them to you. We're going to give you the data, the tips, the tricks, the inside information, if you will. We dive past the headlines. We dissect the data so we can give you the information that you need to make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. And I know there are a ton of questions swirling around out there. Is this market going to crash? Are interest rates going to kill the whole thing? I mean, is this 2008 all over again? There's every day we open up our browsers or their newspaper or turn on the news, and there's one more article about how, housing is inevitably going to crash. And whether you agree or not, we're going to have fun dissecting the data together. And we do it every week right here, same bat time, same bat station. And we get to your questions. You hear me talk about your questions all the time. If you have questions, you can call or text them to 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline. Call or text 855-462-7292. And my lovely producer, Jennifer, is with me today. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday indeed. Super excited to have Jen with us. But she is womanning the Anytime hotline. She'll get your questions on the air. That number one more time is 855-462-7292, or visit the website and submit your question that way. Just go to mr.mortgage, never a .com. You don't even have to type in the W's. Mr.mortgage, and boom, will pop up. In the upper right-hand corner is the Contact Us box, and you can type your question in there, and she will happily read it on the air. But, hey, super excited to be with you this week. We do it every week right here, so we're glad to be with you. But, hey, let's dive into the headlines. Today did not disappoint. I pulled some headlines off the old internet this morning in doing my show prep. Here's one. Mortgage demand falls to its lowest level in 2 decades as rates hit 16-year high of 6.75%. Another one says mortgage demand is down to levels that we haven't seen since 1997, and rates touched 7%, which is true. They've pulled back into the sixes, but they did tickle 7% a couple times there, which had everybody sitting upright and at full attention, wondering where things were going. But we are firmly in the sixes at the moment. So, hey, here's another one. U.S. home prices are falling at the fastest rate since the great financial crisis. Oh, my God. I mean, guys, let's just go back to the house and everybody jump in their bed and pull the covers over their head, because with data like this, the end is near, right? I mean, it sure seems that way, but guys, that's not the case. And I like to have fun with the articles, but hey, I pulled another one, and I pulled this one because it at least covers all of the moving parts around what makes up housing prices. But it does start by saying high mortgage rates, tight supply, and economic uncertainty. Here's what's happening with home prices. And this article goes on to define the cooling in prices that everybody's referencing are the July and August numbers. So from June to July, housing prices dropped 1%. And actually it was below 1%, and then they adjusted it up after they dissected all the data. So let's call it, 1% to be safe. Sorry, from July to August, we dropped 0.98%. So let's round that up and call it 1%. So from June to July and July to August, we saw a 2% reduction in median home prices nationwide, which results in roughly $8,000. So a $400,000 house in June will cost $392,000 in August, if you're following that math, okay? Now, here's the thing. The article is super interesting. And you know what? I'll post this to the Facebook page. Go to Facebook and search The Mr. Mortgage Show, and you can read some of this for yourself. But they talked about the 0.98% drop from July to August, which we just referenced. But then they went on to say in August, we still saw 13.5% higher prices than in August of 2021. So year over year, we're still, by this data set, national averages, or medians rather, we're at 13.5% appreciation year over year. And then they pulled back and looked at it a little broader and said that while prices are off their peaks in 97 of the 100 U.S. housing markets that are included in this data set, they're still up roughly 40% across the board from 2019 numbers, so pre-pandemic. So in roughly 2 years, we've had 40% appreciation. Why is that important? It's important because nothing is going on sale yet. If you're talking about sale in relation to historic numbers, we just saw that the data supports that, 13.5% appreciation year over year in August. And here's one thing I found super compelling. This Black Knight data set, again, I'm going to post it. It talks about the prices down roughly 2%, as I mentioned, during that summer period. But here's the thing that I found really, really interesting. Families tend to buy larger priced homes in the spring and summer so that they can move between school years. That skews the numbers higher. Smaller, less expensive homes typically sell in fall and winter, skewing prices lower. Well, we're entering the fall months. Is this the natural order of things? Are we seeing a normal cooling cycle? And I get it. We can't call anything about this housing market normal, but historically we do see prices pull back a little during these months. And guys, I'm not trying to discount that rates are affecting the market. I'm not trying to discount that demand is being quelled by these higher interest rates. I'm not up here just selling sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and roses by any means. My goal in this show each week is just to go a little bit deeper than the headline so you've got the real info. So appreciation is slowing, but we're still seeing big jumps year over year. Where we go from here is yet to be seen. But clearly, this time of year is historically the time that we see prices come down a little bit. And guys, we're not talking about, this yellow 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. We're talking about median values. So everything being lumped into a big pile. So if the more expensive homes typically sell earlier in the year and the less expensive homes sell later in the year, then logic dictates this may just be a natural result of that. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just presenting the data. So I found that interesting. Average home price is now about 2% or $8,000 off its June peak of $438,000. So we kind of touched on that, but still roughly 40% higher than the pre-pandemic levels. So I think all of this data, when you read past the headlines, kind of supports that, supply and demand is what's really at hold here, not interest rates. And you've heard me say it before, I'll say it again. The cost of money does not dictate the value of the goods that you're purchasing. It's supply and demand. And right now, today, these higher interest rates are having a tightening effect on supply because the average person who has a 2.5%, 3.5%, 4% interest rate doesn't want to sell that house and go buy with a 6.5% interest rate right now. It's counterintuitive. The house is more money and the mortgage is costing a higher interest rate. So it's just across the board, we're still seeing significant pressure on supply. And we talked about, the senior community is not helping things by staying put and living happily and healthily where they are. And guys, I want you to stay put. That's not a derogatory comment. It's just a fact that we're seeing less supply come to the market. Even though demand is cooling, there's still more demand than supply. But hey, I hope that makes sense to you because I geek out on the data. That's my thing. If you have questions around any of that, give us a call, 855-462-7292. But hey, you hear the music? You know what that is? That is my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 short minutes. On the other side of this break, we are going to dive into your questions. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, you're in the right place because we are going to dive into your questions here in a minute and do our very best to give you that info that you need so you can dissect all of this craziness and go out there and make the best decisions for you and your family regarding real estate and mortgages, because that's what we talk about. Unless you want to talk about old cars, motorcycles, rock and roll, tequila, I don't know. We can talk about just about anything. But we do have a tendency to gravitate around real estate and mortgage. Hey, but talking about rock and roll, motorcycles, and old cars, you've heard us over the last month or so really talking up this Molly's House fundraiser that we were super, super excited to be a part of. And guys, if you don't know anything about Molly's House, and I'm not ashamed to admit it was my first time there, I've been very aware of what they do and have been a huge supporter, but I've never physically been there, and I was super impressed with the staff. We met some of the families that were staying there. Wonderful, wonderful organization. If you have any desire to learn more about how they help families that are battling cancer, and primarily cancer in kids, check out Molly's House. You can find them on Facebook. Just Google Molly's House Stewart, and they'll pop up. Wonderful, wonderful story. I was super excited to be there, and Jen was representing. We were having a blast. Hey, what did you think of that? That was pretty cool, right?
What a cool experience. That backyard and garden is so relaxing and inviting and spiritual. What a great place.
That was really wild, right? Yeah, I mean, and what was the story with the fountain again? There's a beautiful fountain back there. I know you know more about it, but tell me about that fountain. It was really impressive.
I think all the kids each made a ceramic tile, and that entire fountain was covered in love. What a beautiful sight. If you haven't been to Molly's House, just stop by and check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Well said, Jen. Covered in love, because you're right. It looks like each one of the tiles that make up that mosaic on this fountain that's in the garden in the back, it looks like they're hand painted, and there's positive messages that are, tiled into this thing, and just truly beautiful. And Jen and I were standing in the front, and we had the privilege of meeting a family that was staying there. And long story short, Molly's House provides cost-free housing for the families of children who are getting cancer treatment across the street at Cleveland Clinic. So super excited to be a part of that. It was a wonderful time. My God, the weather was amazing. There were a lot of bikes. We brought out the Mr. Mortgage Mobile. If anybody saw that we had a great time. We were out there talking old cars and mortgages and listened to some really good music. So, hey guys, thank you for everybody who came out. We had a chance to meet a lot of listeners. We reconnected with some old friends, and you guys were awesome. They raised a ton of money, and we were super excited to be a part of that. But hey, you know what it is. It is question time. It is time to get to my favorite part of the show. So, hey, Jen, I know you've got questions over there because I see you holding up that finger. Not that finger, ladies and gentlemen. Well, sometimes that finger too. But hey, what do we have question-wise?
Lori is asking, is it possible to get an equity line if I'm between jobs? My company closed last month and I'm looking, but haven't found anything yet.
Ooh, wow. Okay, so typically you're not going to be able to get an equity line without employment. And typically you're not going to get any financing without employment. And I say that typically because there are some mortgage products that are designed for wealthy individuals who could pay cash, or we're not looking at income. We're looking at the income generated from the property if you're buying a rental property. But I say all that, but obviously that doesn't apply to your circumstance. It sounds like you're trying to bridge the gap with an equity line while you're looking for new employment. And I wish you well. I do know from what the news says, but hopefully their headlines are more accurate than ours in the real estate world, that there are a ton of jobs available out there. But anyway, you're most likely going to have to wait until you get your new job, and hopefully there's a short gap in between the jobs, because gap in employment is an issue that is part of underwriting in a mortgage, and in an equity line. So you want that gap to be as short as possible, even if you're not taking your, forever, I love this place, I'm never leaving job. Sometimes it's better to take, the best opportunity you have while you continue to look for your dream job, so that in these positions that you find yourself in now, there's other opportunity. And I say that only because, had you been able to jump lily pad to lily pad, then that equity line may be available. But this is probably a good point. First, let me thank you for your question. I guess secondly, because I've already answered it, but it just made me think of one thing that I would like to make everyone aware of. Oftentimes, we use these equity line strategies in life to have access to capital in case we need it, right? Hoping that we're never going to need it. And oftentimes we never do. But here's the thing. When times are good, everybody wants to loan you money. But when you need the money, it's hard to get it. And by that, I mean, if your hours have been cut, or in this case, you're in between jobs, it's far more difficult to obtain financing. So if you feel that the waters are getting rough, I would encourage you to get an equity line now, because you don't pay for it unless you use it, right? The dynamics of an equity line are quite interesting. So it acts just like a credit card, except it's collateralized by the equity in your property, and it records like a second mortgage. But a lot of banks will offer an equity line at no cost to the borrower, or they'll let you pay the costs, which are, doc stamps, the normal closing of a mortgage, from the equity line, so you're not pulling any money out of pocket. But some waive the fees altogether. The higher the credit score and the more equity that you have, the more opportunity you have to flex, if you will. So I share all that only because we have a tendency not to ask until we need. But then if we need and we're not able to obtain what we're looking for, we find ourselves in difficult positions. And hey, I'm not saying that you knew this was coming and could have navigated this differently. Don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm not speaking specifically to you. I just want to take this opportunity to kind of share this principle, if you will. It makes sense to take the equity line and never use it than not take it and find yourself in need and then not have access to it. So, and guys, right now with interest rates where they are, a lot of people are accessing equity via an equity line instead of a cash out refinance because they're not ready to let go of that, all-time, lifetime, historically low interest rate. And I get it. I totally get it. We don't want to let go of ours. So great question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I hope that you're able to grab a job soon. And then with that job that you'd be able to get that equity line. I hope that helps. If you have more questions and you'd like to dive deeper, just give us a call. 855-462-7292 is the best way to reach us. But hey, Jen, I'm going to throw it over to you, see if we can get another question in.
Dave wants to know, I keep hearing the housing market is cooling off, but I'm just not seeing a big difference where I'm looking. When do you think prices will come down?
Hey, Dave. So did you listen to the first segment of the show? We talked about that. I'm not convinced housing prices are going to come down significantly across the board. By all means, I do think some markets are going to see a pullback, and maybe a significant pullback, because a lot of neighborhoods got swept along into this appreciation cycle, less because of the desirability of the neighborhood or this amazing house, and more because there just were no houses to choose from. And, we talk about it all the time, supply and demand. We talked about what happened during the pandemic and how we all bought what we had to buy and paid whatever we had to pay for it just because we needed it. Well, housing went through a very similar experience. So I don't know. I don't think anytime soon, Dave, to answer your question, I do think that we'll see some cooling in some of the markets, but I don't think a crash is coming. And if you're waiting for that before you buy, you might find yourself, just boxed out. A lot of people who waited 2 years ago are really regretting it now. Heck, people who waited 6 months ago are regretting it based on the data that we just shared. So brilliant question, my man. I wish I had a better answer for you. I am the first one to admit that I do not have a crystal ball. But yeah, I don't see what is setting up on the supply side to drive prices down anytime soon. And I, like you, am equally confused by those articles. So, hey guys, you hear the music, you know what that means. That is my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. And on the other side of this break, we're going to dive into more of your questions. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We kept our business above water with credit cards during the pandemic. I'm glad we did. Business is better than ever. But I didn't want to be a slave to those credit card payments. I called Mark about the rec loan he advertises. Long story short, we did a rec refinance and paid off everything, even the car. Now we only have the mortgage payment. We're saving a bunch every month. Yes, we are happy to recommend Mark and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you heard the man. You can call or text. Actually, we have to have him update that rejoiner. call or text anytime. I can't even do the voice. That guy's amazing. Call or text the Anytime hotline, 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. And if you are just scanning the dial and you stumbled across this crazy real estate mortgage show, we're glad you're here. My name is Mark Eitel. This is the mortgage... My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we do this every week right here. Same bat time, same bat station, and I am joined, as always, by my fantastic producer, my right hand, the one that makes me sound good. Nobody can make me look good, but she does her very best to make me sound good. Jennifer, she is manning the Anytime hotline, which, one more time, for the people in the back, 855-462-7292, or shoot us an email via the website, which is mr.mortgage. Never, ever, ever a .com. Actually, I don't even know what would come up if you did type in the .com. If it's crazy, it's not me, I swear. But no WWs and no .com. Just go up to your address bar in your browser, type in Mr., hit the dot, type in mortgage, hit enter, and boom, we'll pop right up, and you can submit your questions to us there. Jen is very talented. She's running the board. She's running the hotline. She's running the text line and the email line. So I know I was talking to her during the break. Yes, occasionally she will talk to me. And she let me know that we got a bunch of questions lined up over there. So let's do a rapid round. Hey, Jen, throw a question at me.
Christy sent this. I know you've talked about this before, but I don't remember the details. How does it work if I pay my car and credit card from my business?
Hey, Christy, that is a great question. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to plug the podcast site. So, guys, each week after the show, Jen uploads it. She uploads it to mrmortgageradio.com, mrmortgageradio.com. There you'll find, I don't know, there's probably almost 80 episodes up there now. A ton of information. You can scroll through and you'll probably find the one that we spoke about, this exact subject. So, with that being said, fantastic question. And I believe what you're alluding to is if you pay personal expenses, right? Like your car or your credit card payments with your business account, which is not uncommon for self-employed people. It's very common with the car because oftentimes you can get a better lease deal or finance deal personally than running it through your business. And you'll just make the payment from your business account. Awesome. If that's the case, and we can show that you've done it for the last 12 months consistently, right? Canceled checks or the bank statements from the business showing the money coming out every month for the car payment, then, or credit card in this question example, then we don't have to use those payments against you when we're doing your debt to income calculation. Here's the one absolutely frustrating, crazy, moronic, makes 0 sense caveat to that rule. Let's say you've been doing it this way for 20 years, and every 2 years or 4 years, or doesn't matter the interval of time, you lease a new car, right? Not uncommon. We see it all the time. Well, you will have to wait until you've made 12 consecutive payments on the new car, right? Crazy, because I can show that you've historically paid the car payment from your business account. But as soon as that car gets traded in and you have a new loan or a new lease, that clock resets. So a lot of times people are unaware of that, and they know the rule that you can exclude it from your debt to income calculation because you pay it from your business. But a lot of people are unaware that as soon as you buy a new car or get a new lease, that clock starts over again. And guys, with the car payments of today, we're seeing car payments over $1,000. I mean, you hear the spots that we run on this station about the gentleman who had 2 truck payments totaling almost $2,500. Yeah, luckily we were able to refinance him, but my God, the car payments are crazy. So you want to pay him from your business if you can, but you're going to need proof of 12 of the last 12 months being paid by the business before we can exclude that. So just know that going in, but that is a fantastic question. Speaking of fantastic questions, hey Jen, what do we have next?
Aaron is asking, I've been driving Uber and DoorDash for a couple years. I make pretty good money. Can I get a mortgage with just gig jobs?
Hey, that is another great question, Aaron. Yes, you can. So there are a couple of things that we're going to have to look at, or whoever your lender is. I'd love it to be us. Are you claiming all of that income on your tax returns? How are you getting paid, right? Because some of what's commonly called the gig economy has broadened way out. And I've got people who get paid via Zelle and via Cash App and via PayPal, and they're not showing that money on their tax returns. Those people we have to use the bank statement loan program for. But if you're getting 1099s or W-2s, and I'm sorry that I don't know how Uber pays off the top of my head, but with that income documentation, if you're claiming it on your tax returns, that's fantastic. It's a no-brainer. But there's no discrimination against that source of income and that source of employment. And what an explosion in gig employment through the pandemic. I'm not going to mislead you. I had to learn a lot about Zelle and Cash App over the last, 2 years, the beginning of the pandemic for sure, because I hadn't seen much of it. But the gig economy is definitely a real thing, and people make real money doing that. Guys, don't laugh at your Lyft driver, your Uber driver, or your DoorDasher, because you would be surprised. These people work their butts off, and some of them do rather well. So, hey, great question. If you need help with that and you want to, kind of dive deep, I'm happy to take a look at the income docs and let you know what you'd qualify for. But fantastic question, Aaron. Thanks for the question. Hey, Jen, what else do you have?
Braxton's question is, if we sell and buy a new house, is there a rule about how much we have to put in the new house to avoid taxes on the money?
Braxton, that is a very cool name. I can only think of Tony Braxton. And guys, you know what I'm going to do. I'm sorry. Turn up your radio. Here it goes. Unbreak my heart. Wow, that was bad. That's the Tony Braxton song that I remember. But hey, Braxton, fantastic question. So I need to know a little bit more. Is this your primary residence? If it's your primary residence and you claimed homestead and you've lived there for 2 of the last 5 years, then you can pull $250,000 in gains out of the property tax-free. So in theory, you could put the smallest amount of money down on the next property and pull the lion's share of that equity out tax-free. A married couple can pull $500,000 out under those same guidelines, if you will. If it's an investment property or you haven't held it for 2 years, with an investment property, you can roll it into a 1031 exchange, and then you're going to put all of it into the new property or properties and forego capital gains tax that way. If it's a primary purchase, it's a primary residence rather, and you're selling it and you've not owned it for that 2-year period, then you want to find every Home Depot receipt, every receipt to your landscaper, your pool guy, because you're going to have to try to write those gains down, because those are going to be taxable even if you put them into the next property. The only way around that is the 1031 exchange strategy, or holding it for at least 2 years as your primary. But fantastic question. I appreciate it. Plus, I got to sing a little Tony Braxton. Man, Jen is holding her fingers on her nose, giving me the what is that? The pew, the stinky. She didn't she didn't like the sound of that Tony Braxton, and probably a lot of others would agree. Not my best effort, but hey, I appreciate you putting up with me. That was a fantastic question. And if you want to talk through the details with me on that, just give me a call. I'd love to know a little bit more so I could give you better advice. And you can get a hold of me at 855-462-7292. But hey, you know what that music means. That is my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break will be more Mortgage Mayhem. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallygreatagents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. You can call or text your questions to the Mr. Mortgage Show at 855-462-7292. And I know we've got a little backlog of questions going over there, which is always exciting for me because that means somebody other than my mother is actually listening to the show, which is always exciting to know. But thank you for that. So speaking of questions, we are going to keep them rolling. Let me throw it over to Jen to see what we have.
Here's a question from Terrence. What happens to an equity line if property values go down?
Ooh, Terrence, that is another good question. And with a name like that, reminds me of Terrence Trent D'Arby, another musician from the 80s. So I butchered Tony Braxton on the last one. So what was that Terrence Trent D'Arby song? Oh my God, it escapes me now. Anyway, it'll come back to me and I'll sing it to you later. Somehow that jumped out of my mind. I was just thinking of it, but sign your name across my heart, I believe is what it is. Sign your name across my heart. I want you to be my baby. Guys, clearly you know why they do not give me a microphone when I'm in the studio playing with the band. It's drums only for me there, but they can't stop me here because I get to talk to you and, occasionally sing. But hey, that was a great question, Terrence. So what happens with the equity line if property values go down? Well, by nature, it's called an equity line because it's collateralized by your equity. So if you have less equity, you can see that line being reduced or in some cases even closed. Here's the thing, though. If you've already used it, they can't take that money away from you. They can close the line so you can't access any more money, but they can't take it back from you. And that's one of the drawbacks, if there is. There's not a lot of drawbacks, but one of them, equity line versus cash out refi, is if this crazy crash that some people think is coming actually happens, if these equity lines are reduced or closed, then you're stuck. You have no access to your capital to get you through those troubled times, where if you do a cash out refinance, you can just kind of sock that money in your gun safe or in your bank account, and you don't have to look back. They're not knocking on your door and changing the terms of your loan. But I get it, right? Interest rates have changed enough that in many cases it doesn't make sense to refinance right now. But I say many cases because we're still seeing opportunity for people who, like the gentleman I mentioned earlier in the show, who had truck payments of darn near $2,500, equity line, schmequity line. He wanted to refinance, roll everything into the house, and we were able to access more equity that way than what the bank offered him with the equity line. And he's got one payment now. And I'm praying for him that he remains with one payment because he's saving a bunch of money each month. But yes, his interest rate went up on his mortgage, but it went down on everything else. But I hope that answers your question. An equity line is a great opportunity to access capital in case of unforeseen changes in life, or we had a question to open the show where the woman was between jobs. Had she had an equity line, she could have been, offsetting some of the burden of no income with that equity line. So anyway, great question. In a declining market value, in a declining real estate value market, you'll see equity lines being reduced or even closed in some instances. And we saw a lot of that in the early 2000s during the recession. So great question. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Billy is asking, are there special loans for buying a rental property, say like an Airbnb? Does it require a bigger down payment?
Hey, Billy, that is a great question. Typically, yes, any investment property is going to require a slightly larger down payment than a traditional primary residence loan. And I say that because, you can get a 97%, 100% loan on your primary residence, where an investment property, they're typically looking at a 15 or 20% down payment. An Airbnb loan, one that works really well, is the landlord loan that you hear us talk about, and we're just using the income from the property in the calculations. That's a great strategy. If you're able to fully document the income of the property and fully document your income as a borrower, then you can use a traditional investment loan product, not the landlord loan. But yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities. So appreciate that question. If you need more info, give us a shout. 855-462-7292 is the Anytime hotline. And you can call or text that number. As I mention all the time, when Jen and I are not in the studio, that pushes to my office. So I appreciate you. If you need us during the business hours, just call that number or hit the website, mr.mortgage. Never a .com, just mr.mortgage. Hit enter and the website will pop up and you'll find a bunch of info there too. So, hey, Jen, do we have... Okay, yep, what do we have?
Manny sent this in. Is it difficult to buy a house with an assumable loan? I'm not sure if this is even possible.
Hey, Manny, that's a blast from the past, brother. I appreciate that. So a lot of people are talking about assumable loans right now because if you purchased your property in the last 2 years, you've got an all-time low interest rate. And you could, in theory, with a government loan like an FHA or a VA loan, that's an assumable loan product. So if the new buyer, right, I'm assuming it's you, Manny, based on your question, if you qualify, then yes, you can assume a VA loan or an FHA loan. Here's where we find it challenging for a lot of people, though, is that loan size doesn't change and the loan term doesn't change. So if you're buying a property that's worth $400,000 and the owner has a $250,000 loan that's assumable, then you're going to be looking at $150,000 to put into the deal to bridge the gap. I hope that makes sense if you followed me there. That's the one place we see a challenge around it, is coming up with enough money to buy out that equity position so that you can assume the loan. But you have to go through the underwriting process with the servicer of that loan because they're going to have to sign off on you taking not ownership. What's the word? That becomes your loan. So there's some other nuances about it that make it a little bit tricky, especially with a VA loan. But I'm happy to answer any detailed questions that you may have about it. But I appreciate that. We're hearing more scuttlebutt, if you will. I don't want to say that. It doesn't sound good. More and more talk about how being able to sell a property with an assumable loan might give a seller an advantage in this market as we transition. But brilliant question. I appreciate it. Hey, Jen, I think we have time for another one. What do we have?
Jerry is asking, our insurance rate has almost doubled. I'm not sure if we can afford to keep the house at this point. Are there any low-cost insurance options?
Ooh, no. Sadly, no. Insurance and low cost don't seem to go together at all anymore. And I feel for you. I really do. I'm afraid that a lot of people, and probably me included, are going to be having a conversation like this in about a year once the insurance industry digests all of this Hurricane Ian damage and all the payouts associated with it. But brilliant question. I'd be happy to introduce you to somebody. I'm working with a few agents who are I don't know how they're doing it, but they're getting some pretty aggressive quotes. And sometimes they're placing people with Citizens, and that's not always a bad thing. I'm surprised by some of the savings that they're able to achieve, but I would be happy to connect with you off the air and get you in touch with an insurance agency that has made a difference for my clients in my practice, and I'd be happy to put those hands together, if you will, and make an introduction. So I appreciate it. Hang in there and give me a call, and hopefully we'll get you to the right person that can make a difference. So I thank you. Hey, Jen, can we squeeze in one more before the break?
Howard is asking, I've been trying to encourage my son to buy a house. He keeps saying he missed the boat. I disagree. Do you think it makes sense to buy now, or should he just wait?
Hey, Howard, I disagree also. And I commend you for encouraging your son to make this happen because, guys, people waited 2 years ago and then they came back around and poked their head out of the sand a year ago and said, no, we're going to sign one more year. I think things are going to change. Well, things have changed, right? Interest rates are higher and so are home prices. So I don't remember who it was that said this originally, but my friend Levi over in Texas shared it with me. He said he's never seen anybody make money by waiting to buy in real estate. It's buying and then waiting. And by that, he means hold it for the long term. So, and guys, I think too, we get caught up too much in, appreciation is slowing. Does it make sense? I shouldn't buy now. We still need a place to live and we're still paying rent in most cases, unless, you're living in your mom or dad's house for free. You might as well be paying your own mortgage and starting your way to equity wealth. So I think if the budget makes sense and you qualify for a mortgage and you can afford the payment, then now always is better than later, only because we don't know what's going to happen. And we very well could be in an interest rate environment next year that's even higher. So anyway, I commend you for encouraging your son, and I would continue to encourage him if I was you, especially if you want him out of your house and you want to help him find his own. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you love the bonding time, but that's a great question. I'll dive a little bit deeper into that on the other side of the break because I got some pretty strong opinions about that. But you hear the music? That's my cue. We'll be back into Sit Tight for 2 minutes, and we will be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction, and that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right. We are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And we are so glad that you are. Hey, before we go any further in the show, I just want to give a little more time to Howard's question because I thought it was a brilliant one. I'm tickled that you're encouraging your son. I would suggest this. Pick his budget. What is he paying for rent, assuming that he's paying for rent, and work backwards from there. And jump on Mr. Mortgage, www.mr.mortgagenever.com. And there's a payment calculator on there with all kinds of variables you can plug in. But plug in his monthly budget and then the interest rate of the day, and you'll see what he qualifies for as far as a loan amount's concerned. And then that'll give him an idea of what's available in the marketplace for that particular price. But work backwards from the budget. I think that's a great opportunity. And then share the data that we talked about today. We're still seeing, 13% year over year appreciation. So, my God, on a $300,000 property, that's almost $40,000 in equity accumulated in a year. And there are not many ways other than maybe buying crypto or a lottery ticket where you can put $40,000 in the plus column in a year without ever changing your spending habits. And by that, I mean, if the budget is the same as your rent, then you're already spending that amount of money. You might as well build some equity. So fantastic question, but I certainly do appreciate it. Guys, we had some great questions today. We talked about an equity line between jobs and how that can be a bit of a challenge. We talked about, purchasing an Airbnb. We had some really, really good questions. We talked about, taking the capital gains free. We talked about pulling the gains out when you sell a property, capital gains free, if you've owned it as your primary residence. We talked, about the details around that. I think it was Terrence who asked us about his equity line in a declining market. There was some good stuff. But hey, we're at the stage of the show where I'm going to ask you a favor. If you have found any of this interesting, if you find it compelling, if you enjoy hearing me sing Tony Braxton songs, share the show. If you've got friends or family or coworkers who are thinking of buying or selling real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to share the show with them. I'd love to answer their questions. If they need a mortgage guy, I'd love to be their mortgage guy. If they need a referral to a great real estate agent, check out reallyGreatAgents.com. We do it every day. We're putting hands together and helping people find the home of their dreams by getting them in touch with a great agent. So super excited to be with you each week. This was another great week, and we're just always trying to build the audience. And I'm like the Pied Piper. I think after the show, I'm going to strap on some green tights and a little hat and go up and down the street, or at least this weekend. Oh, no, I can't do it this weekend. Hey, guys, before we go, I want to throw this out. Jen, do me a favor and tell the people about the American Legion fundraiser and poker run this weekend.
Hey, don't forget, this Saturday is the American Legion Post 62 Poker Run in Stewart. Make sure you check out the Mr. Mortgage Show on Facebook for more information. All proceeds benefit a variety of veteran organizations.
We are both very proud members of that particular post down in Stewart, and the PSL post is big supporters of us also. If you have anything to do with the veteran community and the American Legion and the VFWs, it's amazing at how everybody supports each other. But that location is right in front of Lowe's in Stewart. So it used to be an Applebee's, I think, but what a cool facility. This weekend is the poker run, so more motorcycles, more rock and roll. I'll probably bring the old car over there too. What the heck? We had such a good time at Molly's house. But big fundraiser over there this weekend, and they take all the money and it goes to homeless vets, it goes to scholarship funds. They just do some good work, and we're proud to be a part of it. Good stuff all around. Almost at the end of another great week here at the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, Jen, say goodbye to the folks.
Goodbye, Jen. See you next week.
See you next week, indeed. Hey, you hear the music. You know what that means. This is the end. You have reached the end of the Mr. Mortgage Show. But guess what, guys? If you want more of it, check out MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. There are answers to all of life's mysteries. All right, that's the wrap of another week. We certainly appreciate you. We enjoyed being with you. We'll be right back here next week, same time, same station. Have a great week.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.